action. All right, so we're going to start where we were yesterday at the end as we were frantically racing through this. I'm going to go ahead and open up my most recent. So we got our sales journal for 7.1. We've got our totals down here once again. We've totaled all these things up, and now we've got to take them over into the general ledger. We created on a second page a general ledger for each one of these. And we did this first one. Is everybody up to this point where we have one of them done? Sure. So this is the accounts receivables. As soon as we've done the accounts receivables like this, we've input it into the ledger. We're going to jump back into 7.1b, that first page. And down here where we did AR, we're going to put parentheses, 111, parentheses. Oh man, it made it a number. Do parentheses, 1 space, 1 space. There it goes. Now it'll be. That way we know that we've put it into that account. That is the indication that we've posted it, is if we put the account number. So the next one we need to do is the sales tax payable credit. Click over into our general ledger. And this is sales tax payable. Its account number, according to the book, it's what? 231. We're going to start with our first balance, of course, because we need to do a balance, but we don't have a balance. Why don't we have a balance? We close this account out whenever we can. So we don't have a balance according to the problem here. The problem says on page 226 that there's no balance in 231 or 401. So we can just start off. So we could just say this is June and 30th. Our description, we don't even need a description because this is just our normal transaction swap. It's coming from Sales Journal 8. Let me scroll up so everybody can see this. Sales Journal 8. Is this a debit or a credit?
Credit.
How do you know?
Because it was sales tax, you have to pay.
Well, good, it's payable, so it's a liability. So when it's positive, it's going to be a credit. But how else do we know? It's really simple on this one. We even put it on the form, so we know right where it is. It's on the form. It's a credit, so we don't even have to guess at this one. So this is going to be a credit, and it's for how much? I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to come back over here and just click on my total. That way I know I didn't screw it up. When I hit enter, 680 comes across. Bam. Clickety-clack. And then, do I have a debit or a credit balance? Yeah, so we're going to say, I'm just going to say equals 680. There we go. I'm all about the equal sign, so then you don't have to retype everything over and over again. Plus, let me just show you really quick and I'll answer your question, James. If you come over here and you do something like this, so you say 152, enter, it goes 726. Now our total 726, you don't do this, I'm just showing you. When you come back over here, 726, 726. So I don't have to go fix everything. If I do it right the first time and I write formulas to do it all the way through, it'll just translate all the way through in Excel, and all I have to do is go back and fix my first mistake. Everything else will get rectified. Okay, what was your question, James?
The first account number for the accounts receivable was 111, right?
Yeah, it's on page 226, where it says General Ledger Accounts. Okay, the next one, and the final one, is going to be, what's the account? Sales. What's the account number? 401. Do we have a balance? No, is there a balance? My question is there a balance in the account? When I say a balance in the account, that means did we start with something in the account? Maybe let me just clarify that term. When we talk about a balance, it's usually talking about the beginning balance in this case. Like, was there something already in the account before we started? For instance, in accounts receivables, we had $73,000 that was already owed to us, then we just added to it. There was nothing in this one, so we have no balance, so we can go straight to our transaction. So S8 is the posting reference, and is this a debit or a credit? I'm going to just pause and say, are you sure? How would we know? Sales is credit, because it says on the sales journal it's credit, not a debit. I thought I heard debit. You guys were saying debit, right? Were you saying credit? Oh, it sounded like you said debit. Okay, bring it up. A little voice inflection. I was getting scared. All right. And in your last class, did we talk about why sales revenue would be a credit? Can I break it down just for a second? Because I think if you understand the basic concept, it makes sales and revenue a lot easier. Because what we have is assets equals liabilities plus equity. Which section does a sale go in? Asset, liability, or equity? Which section does a sale go in? It's in equity. Okay. So in equity, what side of the T count is plus? The credit. So our credit side is the plus, the debit side is the minus. So what we need to do is we can look at and see that whenever we have a positive or an increase in sales, because sales comes out here and we have income and expense. These two flow up into owner's equity. That's how we get there. So this is kind of like a derivative of that, but everything works the same way as if it were in equity. So we can see that, sorry, I put M, income, there we go. So incomes are all going to be pluses, and our expense, which this is the hard part, because when we're taking away from equity, this is the weird one. Everybody gets caught up on expense because this is where the expense actually goes up, but it's subtracting from equity. So we have to think of it in like a conceptual manner that it's taking away from our equity. So every time we need to take away from it, it's going to be on the left, but that's where we put everything. So when I say an expense is always a debit, thank you. I'm saying that because this is the one that's kind of confusing to understand, because even though the expense is going up, we're taking away from owner's equity. So it's kind of a counterintuitive thing. What's double entry? Yes, but we're just trying to understand this concept of why a sale would be a credit, because it's increasing equity. Okay? So this one right here, we're going to put it in as a credit. I'm going to go ahead and say equals, jump over here to this, and my balance is going to be a credit balance of $8,500. And I forgot on both these, on 401 and on the other one, to put in here. Oh, wrong one. I need to put in here after I've posted them. I have to put in the numbers. So the first one was 230. I'm putting space because that makes it text and it will keep it, not make it a negative number.
Oh, is that what you're doing? Because it keeps on going negative.
That's exactly what I'm doing. I keep hitting space in between my numbers because it'll leave it as text.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome. Those are little Excel tricks for the future. And this would be a completed problem number 1 now. We have both sheets. They're all reconciled. Everything's posted.
But if there was a balance beforehand.
Then we would add the balance on top of this, and we would do the same thing that we did up here.
Right.
We would take it and either add or subtract. So these would be the opposite. I think we're going to get to that in one of these next ones. Let's move on so I don't confuse this too bad. All right, problem number 2. We'll do one of these with problem number 2. We need to put some basic general journal entries. Oh yeah, because we got a general ledger. This one we're going to have to build a journal. Mr. T.G., you need to go see Mrs. McCracken really quick. She needed to talk to you before class today. Yeah, all right. So let's go ahead and start off with our sales journal. I think we should do that because it's easy. It's the simplest thing. It's kind of straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all this. I can't tell if I have the same number or not, but we're going to just go ahead and say delete these. We'll see if we come into it or not. So I'm on 7.2b. Remember how we copied this yesterday? So I have 7.2b. I'm on a new one because I'm doing a second problem. You okay, Lisa? Okay. Let's see. Laura. Oh, you don't have your book out, do you? Mr. Pinkston, would you mind reading us the first transaction on page 227, June 1st? What do we do? Well, no, just read us to it. Sold what?
Sold living room sofa to Kenya Jackson. Issue sales slip 1601 for $2,525 for $202.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got a sales slip 1601. This is on the first. Customer's name was Kenya Jackson. We don't have to do any posting reference yet. Now, I deleted my awesome formula, so I'm going to have to rewrite it here. But our sale was for how much?
2,525.
$2,025. And sales tax was? Or 8%, you're right.
Because I did it yesterday.
And just to prove the point, we could say equals this times 0.08, and we get the same amount. So we could do that. So good understanding.
Yeah, you break it down and it does it all by
And it'll do, so here, let's do it the Elizabeth way. I like it. We're going to drag this sucker all the way down. We're never going to have to calculate out any sales tax anymore. That's what I like. No, I like it when you start figuring out Excel will do this for you, so you don't even have to read half the problem now. And then we're going to make this one say, this one equals what?
2,525.
Sales plus sales tax. I love it. All right, we're getting people already thinking Excel. I'm going to drag that one. Oh, you all right? All right, I just want to make sure it wasn't your foot.
Like it's just my butt.
Well, you could have been having a seizure. No. All right. You put in the formula for this one thing, and then you drag it down, and now I have that same formula all the way down. It's relative. Well, you could copy and paste this out. I just deleted everything. I don't have to. I could just come over and delete the sales credit numbers and everything else. I just leave out these two sections.
Mr. Greg, could you redo the formula for 2,525?
There was no formula. That was a number that I got from the book. At some point, we're going to have to get data. Okay, so at some point we're going to take something that was given to us, and then then we can put formulas on it. But it's up here on the top of this page. So number 2, Levon.
Sure, don't mind if I do.
What date?
So 3 recliners to Carmen Cruz. Issued sales slip 1602 for $1,500. Sales tax $120.
Look at that. I just typed in 1,500. The rest of it filled out automatically. And this was to Carmen Cruz. He's obviously having a Super Bowl party. 3 recliners. And it's auto totaling down here. It's auto calculating for us. It's pretty nice. This is getting easier by the second, huh? All right, we'll see. Hey, if you're doing this right, your test is going to be clickety-clack, lickety-split. Oh, all right, next one, Markale.
So dining room set to Lu Chang.
Lu Chang again, or is this someone else?
That's someone else.
Okay, that was Tai Long. Yeah.
Issue sales slip 1603 for $6,025. But sales tax about $482.
I already knew that because I typed in the 6,025. That's like that. It's so fast if you have it done right. Or we could struggle and write it by hand if you guys want, but I prefer not to. Okay. Sterling.
Accepted a return of damaged chairs.
All right, let's do the damaged chairs later. We'll come back. Skip.
Okay. On the 17th of June, he sold a living room table and bookcase to not Rick James, Rick Jones. Rick Jones. Issued sales slip 1604 for $4,000 plus the sales tax of $320.
Bam. Laura. This is why I thought yesterday was going to go so quickly, and I didn't. Because these things actually go by very fast.
Alright, Dawson.
Yes, as long as it's not a return.
Fifth, right?
No, the 23rd.
Third. Okay. Sold 8 dining room chairs to Demetri Brown. Issued sales slip 1605 for 2,400 plus tax of 192.
Dimitri Brown?
Jones.
Oh.
Sorry.
I got Dimitri Brown. Good, okay. Excellent. So we have the 27th, 28th, or 29th, 30th. Good, we're going to hit exactly. I like this. This is going to be good. Mr. England, can you read us the next one? We're not going to want to do 25. We're going to be on number 27 on 227.
27, sold a living room sofa, 4 chairs,
Is it Paul Rivera?
you said 27?
Yeah, June 27th. On page 227.
Sold a portable color television to
It's a living room sofa.
27.
Yeah, it's on the right side.
Yeah. So it's going to be sales credit using slip 1606
Are you in A or are you in B?
and B. 72B 27. Sales slip 1606 for Paul Rivera.
There you go. 1606. Okay, good.
A sales credit for 2,575. Sales tax for $92. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Um, Okay, it's he paid $25.75 and there was sales tax on top of it of $206. Okay. James,
So the dining room.
what date? We gotta make sure we always have the date.
June 29th.
Okay.
So the dining room table to Rosie Sales. Issued sales slip 1607 for 1,150 plus sales tax of 92.
And last but not least, I'll read the last one. On June 30th, we sold the living room modular wall unit to Jim Mayer. Sales slip number 1608 for $3,100 plus $248 in sales tax. Good? Did that all make sense? Flan, I'm going to hit you. No. All these nice things I was saying about you yesterday. Something's not adding up. Okay. What's not adding up? What numbers do you have? Well, we'll do those in a second, but those are going to be in the journal. Yeah, because we don't put those in the sales journal. We're going to put those in the general journal. Returns don't go in the sales journal. Remember, that was an important part from Tuesday. No, this is anything in sales. So anytime we make a sale, everything else, any kind of return is going to go in what we call the como se dice general journal in Espanol. It's called the general journal. Okay. You got less than that, then you added it wrong, you typed in the wrong number. Because I have ultimate faith in the logical calculation ability of Excel. Unless I typed in something wrong, but it looks right to me. Am I wrong? Did anybody else get something different than me? Silence is deafening. Which number is wrong on yours, James? Okay. Do you have 2525 in row 2? Do you have 1500? Do you have 6025? Do you have 4000? No? Do you have 2400?
I had all of those numbers.
Well, then they'll all add up right.
No,
Then your formula was wrong. One of the two. Numbers don't lie. Neither do formulas. Okay, so let's jump over and do our second half of this problem. Sheet 2. Oh, I got to make a new sheet, don't I? I'm going to take this one where I've already done a bunch of ledger entries, and I'm going to duplicate it. So move or copy. I'm going to move or copy this over in front of sheet 2, and we're going to create a copy of it. And when it's here, now I'm going to tap on this and say this is 2B, or not 2B. And good, we have those. Now we do need to do the general journal first. Yes, Elizabeth.
This is on the instructions on number 2. It says record the transactions in a sales journal and a general journal.
That's what I was just saying. We do need to do the general journal first. It was coming out. So I'm going to throw the general journal, because we have returns, on this same first page right here. So this is going to take a little bit of Excel knowledge and freedom of thought, but we can do this. We'll all be okay. We're going to get creative so that we can keep it all on one page. We're going to come up here, and we're going to put general journal. And this is going to be on page 26. Oh, and this last one, we're supposed to be on page 9. I think I left page 8. Yeah, this is supposed to be page 9. Fix that. Okay. Now to create a general journal, skip a line. Come over here, we're going to say date, description, let's see here, let's do a posting reference. Remember that Alt-Enter will get you that second line, debit and credit. I'm going to take my description one right here, and I'm going to merge and center it so it's all looking like one big spot here. I like that. Description is going to be one big thing, so is date. I'm going to make date. Those two, I'm going to merge and center those. The rest of them, I'm just going to center, which is this button. This is a general journal. We have a general ledger already created on the second half right here. We can use that. But the journal, this chapter is going over the sales journal, but we also need to, for returns, use a general journal. So we're going to create this right here. Okay. So we've got those. I'm going to just make some numbers here. I'm going to do like a 1 through 20 or something like that. 1, 2, and then grab these. You can remember how to grab this. Click and drag. So we have some space to write. And instead of dragging the next one, I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to go over here and hit paste. Now I've got it on both sides. Alt-Enter makes that next line show up. Post, Alt-Enter, ref, and then hit tab. Then I'm going to highlight all this area, and I'm going to throw borders on all of it, just so I can have borders, because we're going to need some lines. All borders. And the only other big issue I see here on this journal is that the description is split up into 3. So I'm going to take my first one, merge, and then left justify it so it's not all centered. So I merged and centered it. And then I'm going to go over to the left, justification, and then I'm going to drag it all the way down. And now my description will be one solid box the whole way. I like it. And I think, because I'm thinking ahead that I'm going to have numbers in here, I'm going to highlight my debit and my credit all the way down. And I'm going to come up here and do a comma style. Now we had something on the 11th of June. Well, here, I'll pause really quick. We all catching up? We good? Almost there? I wanted to see if we could do one of these before our break. I don't. Not this mod. But it's always online for you, youtube.com/ProfessorGreerVideos. You can watch it at any time. It's all the same jokes. It's me just being recorded. So you don't get the animal charisma that you get when you're in class with me, but it's pretty darn close. Ready, James? My hand is cramping to type a 2013. All right, date in box 1, 2013. I feel better now. Type. Did it stop flashing? I knew it. Or you can hit escape. Say June. What was the date of our first return? Was it on the 17th or 11th or something? 11th. On the 11th, we had a return. Now, I need us to think about this for a second. If we have a return, let's go back up here. What are we doing to all of these accounts? What's the concept of what's going on with these accounts? We're returning something. What are we going to do to these? We sold it when we did this. Well, we're going to do the exact opposite. So anything that says debit, it's going to say credit. Anything that says credit?
Because someone's returning something to you, right?
Yeah. So anything that says credit's coming back. But the only problem, the only hiccup is sales. We are not going to take away from sales. Do you remember in the presentation, what do? We create a new account called Sales Returns and Allowances. Well, it is. It's the contra account. That's exactly what it is. So you got the concept, and that's the name of it. So we're going to create a contra account for sales, which is Sales Returns and Allowances, which does the exact opposite to it, and it actually kind of is like subsidiary to this account. So that's the only change we're going to make to this. We're going to flip everything and use Sales Returns and Allowances. So whenever we're doing a journal entry, can anybody tell me, do we do debits or credits first? What? Debit. We always do debits first when we do our journal entries. Correct. So our first one is not sales, but it's going to be Sales Returns and Allowances. How much money is coming back? What does it say in the problem? Accepted a return of a damaged chair from Carmen Cruz. The chair was originally sold on sales slip 1602 June 5th, issued a credit memorandum 215 for $540, which includes $40 of sales tax. So how much are we returning of the actual sale if it has $40 of sales tax in it? $500, Laura, good job. $500. So we're going to do on this one, the next one we're going to do is sales tax payable, because we don't owe this anymore. We're going to debit sales tax payable. How much? $40. Bam, good job. So we've got 40. So we should have these two debit accounts. And now we've got a credit because it's double entry. Do you guys remember that this is called a compound entry? That we're going to have two things on one side and one on the other? That's called a compound entry. These two still have to equal here. Before I even come up with the account, I know I can come over here and say this equals 500 plus 400, or 40. So I know this is going to be $540. So my numbers are right. Now if I screw up the account, I've only screwed up half of this process. But it can't be different than that. It has to equal. So I'm going to come over here to the account is going to be, who's getting this money back? So we're going to take it out of their what account? Because they bought this on credit. Well, no, they bought it on an account with us, like with a credit card. We call that accounts receivables. So we're going to take it out of their AR account because they don't owe it to us anymore. Was that a question or? Okay. So I'm going to put Carmen Cruz, AR. So accounts receivables, Carmen Cruz. This is like their account. I like to, and this is just me being anal retentive douche, okay? But I like to indent my credit transactions. Do you guys know how to indent without using spaces? Because no, not tab. Tab takes you to the next one. You come up here to right here, this little bad boy. This button right here, just to the left of Merge and Center. If you click it, I like to click it twice because now I can see that this is my credit transaction and these are my debit transactions. You don't have to, but it makes it more confusing. I would highly recommend it. How about that? I would do anything Mr. Greer highly recommends because the only reason I would highly recommend it is to keep you from being confused in the future. And when you do it on paper, this is how you do it. So that's why you do it here also.
So you push it, you take the ground rules and then you push up there twice?
Yeah, I clicked it twice just because I like to bring it in a couple. And you can't be double clicked in it. You have to just be highlighted on the cell, not actually editing the text. So sometimes you just push down, then come back up to it, and then hit that button twice. Yeah, if you've double clicked in the cell, it's going to take all those formatting options away because it thinks you want to type in it. So one of the things that if you're ever having a problem doing something like that, just get out of the cell and just click once on it or just move with your cursor. Don't double click because when you double click, you're editing what's in the cell, not what's going on in the cell. All right, so the last thing we need to do is we have to put a description down. So I'm just going to go down to like a line here and say that we I'll just go down one line and say we accepted a return of damaged chair, credit memo, what was it? Actually, credit memo 215. Original sale. Let's see, was on slip 1602. Is that right? 1602, June 5th. Why am I writing so much information on there? I'm going to end in this a little bit. Audit trail. If I get hit by a bus, someone else can come see what I did in the general journal, and there's no question. I'm not hiding anything, exactly. Now I'm going to hit Control S to save this. I'm going to go down to Camtasia and hit pause. And resuming now. Are you cold? It feels warmer in here. Did somebody turn the heat up? Kendra. Kendra, did you really? Okay, yeah. They all pointed at the same time. Okay. It's not polite. There's always 3 fingers pointing back, right? That's why I always point like this. Okay. Our next return was on June 25th. What's going on in this one? We gave Rick Jones credit an allowance for scratches on his bookcases. Can I just tell you, have you ever been to the Sears Depot down in San Diego, the Sears outlet? Bought me a $2,400 fridge for like $800. Only problem was there were scratches on the side of it, but at my house we slide the fridge in. We don't even see it. It's a very good deal. Still had all the cellophane and everything in it. It was perfect. That's like, you're really going to give me that much money off for that? Here's the money. So I'll take it. So we're going to be doing essentially the same thing. Sales returns and allowances, all this. So what I'm going to do, because I'm a fast Excel guy, is I'm going to come down here and highlight all this and hit copy. I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to come over here and say copy and paste this. So now I have all of it here. But how much am I getting as a sales return allowance this time? $20. $20.
I don't know, it's 270.
270, but 20 of it is So I'm going to say 250 plus 20 equals the 270. So I've got that one all done. Now, who is this one getting returned to?
Rick Jones.
Rick Jones. And then we can just write another version of this. We can say that we gave him an allowance for damaged goods. And this was for credit memo, what was it, 216? And the original sale was on, sales slip 1604. How about that? 1604. That was June 17th. And what took us a while to do the first time is done really fast the second time. I like that. So now we've done all of our journal entries. Question. On our ledger this time, how many ledgers are we going to need? 4. Correct. You are correct, sir. So I'm going to grab this last one, and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to paste it again. Bam. Now, all my numbers are wrong because this is from the first problem, I believe. But let's go ahead and start off. Accounts receivables. What account number is it? Same account number? Okay, same one. Do we have balances? Yes, we do. Accounts receivables has a beginning balance of 24,150. Now you're going to think I was a genius because the way I built my formula last time when we go through this. When we come over here, we know that accounts receivable is always going to have a what kind of a balance? Debit. It's always going to have a debit balance. So what's the next transaction that's going to happen here? What's the next transaction that's going to happen? On June 11th. Everybody's looking confused. On June 11th, what's going to happen? See this little AR here? We have accounts receivables. So we're going to have to pull some money out of accounts receivables because this guy doesn't owe us any money anymore. And what is it? It's a credit. Sterling, you just said that. Good job. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say on June 11th, we don't really have to put anything. This is from journal number, what was the page? I think it was 26. Journal page 26. Are we putting a debit into accounts receivables or a credit? What transactions, Lisa, riddle me this. What are we doing in accounts receivables on June 11th? Into the ledger. We're posting to the ledger. I'm going to go back and give you a hint. What's going on June 11th with accounts receivables? Do I see a debit? We're going to credit. See this AR where we say accounts receivables? When we're taking away from accounts receivables, we're going to credit it. On June 11th, we had to give some money back, essentially not collect money from someone, so we're going to credit it. So I'm going to come back over here. We're going to go to the credit column. We're going to say this equals. I'm going to say this equals at least. You could type in the number, but I'm going to just come over here and click this $540. $540. Now, if you did what I did yesterday, it's going to auto-calculate out in the debit column. Why? Because I wrote a formula. If it's a debit side transaction, that takes the balance, adds any debit, and subtracts any credit. So it automatically came up with it. So I didn't have to do anything because I wrote the formula correctly. Sterling, that's having a hard time. Okay, so equals the balance above it plus a debit because it's a debit account, so anything that's a debit is going to add minus any credit. I8, you mean, whoa, you mean equals, are you over 1? You could, okay, listen, this is the Mickey Mouse way to do it. And I think you were just saying this. That's why I'm going to reference this, okay? The Mickey Mouse way to do this is to say the debit, because we've got a credit here, this cell equals this minus this. But if we do that, we're going to have to write a formula every single time. We know we're either going to have a debit in the column or a credit in the column, but we're not going to ever have both on the same day. So all we have to do is we have to write a formula that says, listen, this cell is going to equal whatever was above it, the balance, like a running total on your checkbook, plus a debit minus a credit. Because one of those is always going to be a 0. So it doesn't matter if we do it or not. We just have to have the formula written. And I will show you on our next one. So our next one's going to be, what day was the next one? 25th. On the 25th, J26 again, we had a credit for the return of $270. If I simply take this same formula, everybody eyes up. Fusahal, eyes up. I just want you to see this because I'm going to get confusion later. If I take this same formula and I click and I drag it down, I get my balance. It auto-totaled because that formula works for everything. So now I have $23,340. Well, because what if we had 50 transactions? Yours isn't going to work on 50 transactions, will it? But weren't you just taking 1 minus this one? Okay, what if this was a positive? My formula still works. Yours wouldn't. Because you didn't do a plus. You'd have to show me what your formula is. Well, I'm just saying if you prep for the formula, you got 2 Samsung phones. What do I have to explain anything to you about? Okay, where's your formula? Show it to me. Okay, you're not taking into account the debit. So click on it. Just click on the formula bar. Formula bar. There you go. Yeah, click. See, you're not doing this one. My formula, you're just skipping a part of the step so that if there's ever a debit, it's not going to do the form. It's not going to add anything. Mine will do it. Doesn't matter if I put in a debit or a credit. My formula will do the right thing with it. Yeah. We just happen to be doing a credit right now, but my formula works if we did a debit or a credit. That's what I'm saying. Yours is going to have to be rewritten in every cell to be right. Mine will work on every. My formula is just the one above it, the balance above it. Hold on. You have to erase the cell. Just look at the color. Just look at the color. Everybody, really quick. I just want to explain this because this is the hard part, to decouple the cell and the number. We have to unthink about this, okay? Because if we look at this, is like arguing with my wife. She takes every argument, she makes it very specific. Forget about the numbers that we're seeing, forget about what we're doing. Just take it and think about it in a very general sense. When we're balancing our checkbook, okay, we're going to take the amount of money that was in the checkbook, and if we deposited something, what are we going to do? We're going to add it. If we wrote a check, we're going to subtract it. Every time, and then we'll get a new balance, and that'll give us a new one. And every single time, there's only 2 things we can do: add to our account or subtract from our account. So if we set up that total column to do that as it relates, I'm going to decouple this one more time. I'm going to put one more layer of complexity on this. Let's say this was a credit balance account. What would I do? Don't look at what I have, but what would we do? If it's a credit balance account, what would be the formula? This would equal whatever's above it. Flip that. Minus the debit, because that's a negative to a credit, plus the credit. So we just need to see whatever account it is. It doesn't matter what the account is. It doesn't matter what the number is. If we're a debit balance, we want to add a debit, subtract a credit. If we're a credit balance, we want to minus a debit, we want to add a credit. We just have to flip that, and that's a universal thing. Once we know what type of balance that account is, we can just create that and drag it all the way down to 3,000 numbers, and we can just keep putting stuff in, and it will always calculate out. So as soon as you can comprehend that concept, it's going to get a lot easier for you, because a lot of people screw up on this balance. They don't want to do they'll wait, kind of like what you were saying originally. They'll put this in, and this is the way a lot of people do their stuff. They'll hit delete here. They just don't do this, and then you'll have 15 transactions, and they'll try to put the balance at the bottom. It doesn't work. Just have Excel do it for you really quick, and you don't have to guess about it. It's just happening. But once again, we're not doing the math. We just have to come up with the concept. I have a debit balance, so I'm going to add any debits. I'm going to subtract any credits. I have a credit balance. I'm going to subtract all the debits. I'm going to add all the credits. And we're going to get to, I think, one that does that right now for credits. So sales tax payable. Oh, we didn't do our ending balance. So our ending balance on June 30th, we're going to bring over everything from our sales journal now. Is it a debit or a credit? From our sales journal. Right here. Accounts receivables, debit. That's $25,137. So I'm going to go over to debit. Can you see that, Kendra? I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to go grab that whole number. 25,137, and instantaneously, it has just calculated out what my balance is. Laura, looks like you're constipated or confused. Which one? Okay. What's confusing?
I don't know what it did. Okay, so I'm up here. And then you.
Just drag this down. There you go.
Oh, I was dragging both of them.
Well, you could drag, yeah, just drag this one. And then this one's going to equal your, where is it here? This number right here. It's crossing, you're good. You just got to fill in your dates. You're good. Hit enter. I don't see anything there. Equals this plus anything that's a debit minus anything that's a credit. Whoa, 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 whoa. What'd you do? What happened here? Equals this plus anything that's debit minus anything that's a credit. There.
So it's just, I was confused because it was saying H.
Well,
But it's just telling me for that time.
yeah.
Oh, well,
I said let go of the actual cell. Let go of the time, the amount. All right, so once we've got that transferred over, what is our requirement on the sales journal? We have to post, we have to reference that we posted it. And the way we reference that we posted it is we're going to take this account number back, 111, and we're going to put it underneath this. Parentheses, 1, space, 1, space, 1, close parentheses. That means I've transferred this one over. I'm going to center it. Done. Sales tax credit. Sales tax payable, excuse me. Sales tax payable. Now we have, well, June 30th is going to be one of them, but we have a couple different things here. First off, it says on our problem that we have a balance in this one. So we have a balance. We already owe sales tax to the government. So we're going to start this one off as June 1st, S9, and our balance is going to be excuse you. 4515. It's just our beginning balance. Actually, this isn't even S9. Sorry, this is beginning balance. I'm going to write that so you guys can understand. Our next transaction occurred when? We can just look up here because we're going to have the same transactions right here. These are all the transactions we're going to be taking care of. So the 11th, I'm going to write them ahead of time. Is that all right? Because I can see this. I know I'm going to have the 11th and the 25th and the 30th. I know that those are going to be mine because we have the same transactions going on here. So on the 11th, according to the General Journal 26, page 26, we are going to back out. We owe money. So are we going to do a debit or a credit to sales tax payable if we're going to subtract from payable? Debit, thank you. We're going to debit $40 this first time. So I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to jump over to my transaction because I'm cool like that. Here's my debit right here. I'm just going to say equals this $40. It's going to come across. And now I've got to write my formula for the first time because we have a credit transaction going on. Sorry, I'll scroll it up for you, Markale. So I'm going to write my formula here. My formula is going to be what, Markale? Write me the formula. Equals what? How do I get this balance? How do I get this number right here, this balance number right here? What is this going to equal? So the one right above it. Okay.
And you're going to say plus? Since it's a debt? F20.
Plus F20?
Right.
Okay. It's a minus, thank you. Sterling, it's minus because we're a credit balance. So we're doing a debit. Okay. And then anything that's a credit, we're going to say plus. So we're going to take whatever's above it, subtract the debit, add the credit. Bing, we've got it. Now I know I'm going to have two more transactions, so I'm just going to drag this down 2 more times. My balance is always the same. So my next transaction, which is also on J26 on the 25th, I think, yeah. How much is coming out of that one, Sterling? What's our debit?
20 bucks.
20 bucks. Click. Bam. And our last one is going to be our end of the month. And I'm just going to click over to the end of the month before I do anything. Sales tax payable. Where does it go? Debit or credit? Credit. Exactly. So we're going to come back and we're going to say this is a credit this time. This equals 1862. And now we have our balance of 6317. Oh, I'll feed you baby birds. All right, we ready to do sales? Sales, we're only going to have one transaction. Those are the nice ones. And since I already copied this awesome thing over last time, guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to say equals. I'm going to click over here on my sales credit. Say enter, and it auto-tabulated out. So I'm supposed to put both these that I've posted them. So I'm going to go ahead and put 231 under this one. 2 space 3 space 1, close parentheses. I'm going to put 401, 4 space 0 space 1 under this one. I'm going to center those. I'm sure there's accounting instructors all over the planet that are pissed at me showing you guys how to do the homework. And posting it to YouTube. Thank you. But it's cool like that. You okay, Laura? Because that was like a... Okay. Final one. We have one more account. 451. Sales, returns, and allowances. So I'm going to rename this account Sales, Returns, and Allowances. This is account 451 according to the book. There's no balance in it. What was the date of our first sales return and allowance? The 11th. Good job, Kendra. June 11th. We're going to be on journal page 26. And since it's a return, what kind of an account is it, Levon? You had this right before. Contra account. It is a contra account, so we're going to be a debit because it's going to be the opposite of our sales account, which is right above. So we can see that our sales account is here. This is all going to be the opposite, so we're going to do debits with this. So the amount that we're going to have, this first debit equals, it's on that last page because we did it. Sales returns allowances were 500. We have it written out right here. So we don't have to make up anything. We just copy it over. And this is something that we could, A, for Markel's benefit, rewrite this formula, or if we're smart, because we've already written a debit account balance formula, and you want to be smart about this stuff, we can just jump up here to this one, and we can grab any of them, just hit copy, come down and hit paste. Ta-da! And it does it all automatically for us. And we can drag this down because we know we're going to have a second one right now because we had 2 returns. So on the 25th, on J26 also, how much was that? I'm going to say it equaled 250 right here. It's on our general journal. It's over there. Our balance is 750. Because I like it like that. We need some music in here. I'm not moving. I'm waiting. I'm letting it absorb. Are we all okay? Can we move on? The lack of shakes. You can move wherever you want. You just got to tell me. To the top one? Up? Fusal. Are we good? I'm just being patient. Never in a journal. Journal is a diary. All you do is you write down what happened. You just have to make sure they balance between that transaction, that the left equals the right in a general journal. That's a great question.
On the journal, did we put the reference as well?
Yeah, we should come in here and actually post the reference.
The 451.
Yeah, once we've actually transferred and everything, this should be, good question. 451, this should be 231, this should be 111. This one will be 451, 231, 111. There you go. Good job, James. Way to catch that. I don't know. I thought he'd be here by now. Maybe he came and left. I've been in here all day. He doesn't report to me, unfortunately. I wish. Are we okay? Because we have one last little piece of this problem to do. It's very simple. But I don't want to go forward unless we're all ready. Okay, we're going to do a little piece of the income statement. Little piece of the income statement. The income statement has what on it?
Income and expenses.
Revenue and expenses. But yes, perfect. Just coughed right into the microphone. Sorry, YouTube. Okay. So I'm going to make down at the bottom of my ledgers here just a basic financial statement, and it's just a partial income statement. We're just going to do the revenue section. So this was for the furniture lot. It's an income statement. Scroll up here. Partial. June 30th, 2013. See what happens if you don't pay attention the first time you're in my class? You come back after you graduate and you sit through it because you want to notice stuff. So do that. Don't take that as, there you go. We want to remember.
So which sheet you're doing now?
I'm doing on 7.2b because I'm just going to make this really quick here. I'm going to just merge and center all these things.
What do you have on 17?
I've got all my ledgers. I'm just doing it at the bottom. Is that all right? No, it's accounting. All right. Glad Lisa got it. Okay, revenue. I'm going to tab in, say sales. We're also going to do less sales, returns, and allowances. And then we're going to do net sales. So the way this works on an income statement is we're going to have our tabulating columns over here and then our totals at the far right. So I'm going to go ahead and put in here our sales were what? Equals, and I can go up to my sales balance, 23,275, less our returns and allowances equals our returns and allowances, which is right above me in this ledger. It's a good thing I did it on the same page, huh? So 750, I'm just going to take my final balance. And my net sales is going to be what? How do I figure out my net sales? 23,275 minus 750. Now I do want to point out that the 750 is not a negative number, but it does say less in front of it. So that's why we're doing the subtraction. That should be our ending balance.